Hello everyone, and welcome to this audio podcast in this sort of this series specific to sort of specific to and within the remit of Biomedical Science Day 2023. This audio podcast series looks at a series looks in this series looks at an overview in regard to in regard to various or several several sort of clinical and sort of biomedical seminar remits, and highlights and wherein this series will provide an overview in around a sort of in around these particular remits, and highlight how they are all important, and they're all important in context of sort of laboratory medicine pathology, and and within the remit within the remit of Biomedical Science Day as well. The audio podcast this audio podcast series is in the remit of in this series in the remit of Labostix, the Labostix Practice Edition. This is an audio podcast aligned to the LabTide GeForce, and an audio podcast as part of Labostix GeForce, and an audio podcast part of Storm Labostix production. So in this synopsis there'll be an overview in around these particular scientific but also sort of tech sort of relating or regarding sort of remits that join sort of areas of biomedical practices, clinical practices, and sort of aligned to pathology, and wherein the remit, or wherein this series again we'll look at a sort of an overview between sort of front aspects around biomedical science and laboratory medicine, and sort of areas and focuses in around frontline sort of practices, as well, and in context of sort of public health, and aligned to aspects of sort of pertinence, in pertinence in around specific sort of diseases or conditions that are to be sort of generally sort of made aware of as well. The first, as part of this synopsis, to highlight, there's as part of sort of an overview in context of this synopsis. One of the first sort of remits is in around the UK Kidney Week, UKKW 2023, and UKKW 2023 sort of takes place in early June, in early June 2023, and wherein the remit is around one of one of the sort of largest UK events or remits for those who for those professionals who delve into supporting healthcare practices for those suffering with kidney disease. And so the UK the remit in around UKKW 2023 um, um, is primarily organised by the UK Kidney Association, that's the UK UKKA, and the the uh, the remit um, um, uh, has speakers and presenters from various various sort of nephrology sites and sort of hospitals from and in around the United Kingdom, and there is a sort of an opportunity really where those who look to attend or seek to attend UKKW 2023 get to get to have sort of insights and updates in around the most important aspects that are important to those suffering with different forms of kidney disease, and the remit is over I think over 2 or 3 days. So there's opportunities over 2 or 3 days at UKKW to seek overviews and perspectives in around different aspects of kidney disease, and where the themes generally this year for UKKW delve into sort of those things that align to sort of aspects of pathology, as well as clinical practices, different areas aligned to clinical practices, but also in line to aspects around molecular and genetics, as well as areas in sort of in areas of focuses around, for example, physiotherapy and renal or nephrology, and in line to aspects around nutrition, as well as as well as sort of aspects of well-being, areas of sort of well-being practices, where healthcare professionals and sort of between sort of health sectors come together to sort of gain sort of updates in sort of aspects around translational medicine, translational medicine, and the UKKW is also has a remit where there's presenters who highlight sort of more who highlight or have the opportunity to share sort of best practices or aspects of sort of practice excellence, where there is sort of evidence of wherein there is or maybe sort of examples of practice excellence in around different aspects of kidney care or nephrology practices, and in sort of oral through sort of oral presentations, but also where there are several themes in around the remit where there are presenters who have the opportunity, wherein accepted abstracts, wherein through accepted abstracts have presenters and speakers also sort of presenting works through research poster presentations as well. So it's a really a really sort of in depth remit for UKKW 2023, and the full the program in around UKKW 2023 can be identified through the UKKW 2023 website, the main website, through the main website, and so those who are listening in or checking out this particular audio podcast can also sort of check out the UKKW website to find out about the sort of program that the UK Kidney Association has sort of organised through collaborative efforts for healthcare professionals, researchers, investigators, who seek to get or gain sort of up-to-date practices in and around sort of nephrology and nephrology, and also sort of relating or regarding sort of aspects around practice, clinical and medical practices as well. So listeners and viewers are more than welcome to check out the website, where they can gain some more sort of in-depth sort of overview in around the UKK W 2023 remit, and so moving on to the next sort of overview as part of this synopsis, is around the medtech Expo 2023, which is generally an expo for various organizations where they have an opportunity to show show off sort of the sort of services that may or can sort of help advance different areas of practice in between areas of healthcare, but also aligned to other particular industries, for example, in around for example, laboratory aspects of laboratory practices or pathology, but also in line to for example, in around those industries where there's a focus around focus around other areas of specific and particular areas of tech, and so the MedTech Expo looks to connect leaders, engineers, innovators, manufacturers with all of the technology and sort of innovation to facilitate the design and manufacture of life-changing medical devices specifically. Um, and there are various sort of there are various exhibitions or exhibitors, but also various speakers and presenters talking and highlighting about areas of sort of clinical or medical practices and aspects of tech, and there are those speakers and presenters who are sort of are known for their sort of expertise in around sort of business sort of aspects of business and management, as well as clinical experts, clinical and medical experts, and also those who sort of represent for those who represent sort of consulting firms, consulting firms, as well as as well as sort of those sort of startups as well. The conference or the expo, sorry, this expo is a remit wherein wherein sort of complete sort of novices, or those who are seeking to sort of delve into sort of delve into the medtech sort of industry, can gain sort of first hand hands-on sort of perspectives, and hands-on sort of perspectives in around sort of tech that is sort of on show at this expo. There are there are there are exhibitors, for example, are those that include, for example, Johnson and Johnson, Smith and Nephew, Roche Diagnostics, and various consulting firms, on organizations, 3M, and various others. And so this expo, again, has taken place in the United Kingdom, in the United Kingdom. And so listeners and viewers checking out this particular audio podcast are welcome to check out the medtech website for information. And there is also, on the website, there's a list of various speakers or presenters, and also there is an expo a program. So those who seek to attend the MedTech Expo can get onto the MedTech website and check out the program, and seek gain insights into the sort of the sort of tech that is on the at the expo on site. And this year the expo, the MedTech expo, will and sort of program will once again seek to have various industry leaders ready to share sort of insights and share insights, challenges and solutions, and also where one of the most in sort of challenging aspects around tech, and where at least tech in context of clinical practices and even sort of pathology and laboratory practices is actually to do with regarding sort of the regulation and guidelines in between specific sort of standards. And so, for example, where certain tech can, for example, and certain tech and certain standards that are applicable, for example, in the United Kingdom, may not be applicable in other parts of Europe, and where certain standards in context of what is in Europe and in the United Kingdom may not be as applicable in other parts of the world, or vice versa. So the expo sort of gives an opportunity where professionals can sort of come together and sort of get sort of insights into certain specific standards and specific standards around the tech, and see where there's opportunities for sort of that for where different aspects of the market in around tech can be advantaged, and where there's advantage versus disadvantage, and vice versa. There's also sort of presenters and speakers at this expo who are involved in policy making and influencers as well. So the expo is an opportunity for various professionals from varying sort of aspects of varying sectors between healthcare, but also in other aspects of industry, can again sort of can again sort of come together and sort of share different sort of experiences, and the expo this expo also has remit in around, for example, supply chain strategy, growing adaptation of minimally invasive devices, new manufacturing practices, medical device outsourcing, overcoming manufacturing challenges, recruitment and retention of new skills and talent, NHS market access, sustainability strategy, securing sort of aspects in around sort of financial backing, where that might be important in areas of tech, for example, and also manufacture for miniature or smaller medical devices as well. And so the website the website is simply MedTech Expo, and can be put into your search engines. And the website sort of provides an overview in around the general sort of remit around the expo. And once again, this expo, the MedTech Expo, is also taking place in early June, 2023. Okay, so the next remit, or the next sort of overview, as part of this synopsis, is going to be in around the an annual meeting of the European Working Group on the psychosocial aspects of children suffering with chronic renal failure, or the UOPA 2023. And this is a conference, or a remit seminar that's taking place again, sort of in early to mid June 2023. And the remit here is where the Europa 2023 meeting is an opportunity for those who have an intrigue in supporting in ensuring sort of clinical practices, and medical practices, sort of laboratory practices, areas of pathology, areas of other areas of other areas of sort of pertinence to children or young people suffering with kidney disease, sort of get sort of learn and have an opportunity to learn in around sort of the sort of challenges young people have in around this particular different areas or different diseases around kidney care. And UOPA the UOPA remit is generally multidisciplinary, and it's a group of professionals, generally a group of professionals, where there is an intrigue in the cycle, in the preliminary or primarily in the psychosocial care of children or young people or adolescents, if you like, with chronic kidney disease, and childhood CKD, childhood CKD. In this in context, is a rare condition, to an extent, and the UOPA have documented that CKD is a rare condition at the heart of the European Rare Kidney Disease Reference Network, or ERCnet. And the UOPA meeting is fully aligned with ERCnet's mission to promote interdisciplinary care, and research focused on those children or young people suffering with different forms of kidney disease and CKD. The UOPA meeting is held is again held in early June, and there is a general invitation where Europa organizers invite all stakeholders caring for children, young people, and adults, children, young people, and adolescents with CKD to participate with both scientific with scientific reports and with presentations of activities presentation of activities, sort of interventions and experience in everyday clinical practice, with a focus again on sort of the psychosocial aspects or issues, and multidisciplinary care of children and young people and adolescents with CKD. The organizing committee at the same time have launched this year. Have launched some novelty aspect and some novel aspects or novelties as part of the remit, the Europa remit for 2023. Number one, sort of patient voice will be included as part of the testimony of adolescents young people, adolescents or young people, and sort of their parents. Um, uh, Number two, there are prizes for the best abstracts in order to stimulate research, and improvement of care quality in around pediatric nephrology. And three, an adapted sort of uh, uh, an adapted sort of an adapted effort where colleagues and collaborators have an opportunity to learn from different learn from different practices that may not sort of routinely be not may not routinely be sort of accessible. So the Europa 2023 remit has been organized by is primarily organized by those who are professionals in around the in the psychosocial aspects, dealing supporting young people suffering with different forms of kidney disease. But the remit is also or the remit also has a focus around where professionals again healthcare professionals from varying specialties have the opportunity to come together and learn sort of in around sort of areas of best practice and sort of areas of practice excellence where that may exist. And so the Europa website has information, some general information, some information around the program, and so there's for example there's presentations in around looking at sort of the difficulties and challenges, for example, pre versus post transplantation, for example, looking at things in around sort of areas of cognition, and sort of areas of learning and development in sort of very young young or pediatric patients, and also looking at uh, sort of things in around quality of aspects around quality of life in around children or young people with kidney diseases. Looking at living aspects of aspects in around sort of schooling as well, schooling in around those young people who might be on different forms of renal replacement therapy. Um, for example, hemodialysis or peritoneal dialysis, and also hemodialysis resulting in sort of in context of educational sort of positive educational development, and where there is a presenter or speaker that provides sort of a case report in this context. There's also presenters that there's also sort of a theme, in around the genetic and disease specific aspects. So some aspects in around ethical, legal, and sort of the implications of what's referred in context of laboratory medicine, and sort of and in line to immunology and genetics. For example, around the ethical and legal aspects of next generation sequencing, looking at sort of counseling families with rare genetic kidney diseases, or forms of kidney diseases. There's works as part of the UOPA 2023 program. There's works from patients and caregivers in front of in aligned to non-adherence in around a particular aspect around kidney disease or kidney care. There's also presenters, speakers in around looking at autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease as well, so ADPKD, and the UOPA remit also has speakers and presenters, where there's opportunities to learn through research poster presentations, as well. And there is on the website, on the UOPA website, there is information about more information about the UOPA the UOPA remit and program. So any viewers or listeners who are checking out this audio podcast, feel free to check out the UOPA remit, and you can listeners or viewers can check out the UOPA website by again sort of putting the word UOPA into the search engines to find out more. So the next sort of overview as part of this synopsis and as part of the remit in around Biomedical Science Day 2023 is in around excuse me, in around the quality in organ donation. Now, quality in organ donation, or abbreviated as QUOD, QUOD, is generally an initiative really where the organization where there is an organization that facilitates research into areas of sort of transplantation and sort of organ donation by providing researchers with samples and clinical data from appropriately consented and authorized organ donors. And so for researchers, quad is 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 sort of a sort of an approach, really an approach to sort of to see that there's a sort of a collaborative efforts, but also where Quad encourage researchers from all over the world to apply to access different samples, and the different samples may be from different organs where for example those who for example seek to donate organs for medical or medical use or scientific or medical research, and at the same time the initiative is for example where for relatives for example, if you agree for loved ones, for example, to be donated, for organs to be donated for transplantation, obviously a specialist a specialist healthcare professional in around organ donation will ask or request consent or authorization for participation in around the quad program as part of the sort of routine procedure around organ donation and transplantation. And generally the quad initiative is was also an effort where it looks to where the initiative is about advancing research in around research in transplantation, and and also where the website has the Quad website looks to provide or has information or has information in around the different the different processes or processes that sort of take place from sort of different aspects of the quad initiative. The initiative also the quad sort of initiative facilitates again sort of research into areas of organ donation or transplantation by providing again researchers with samples, for example, blood, urine, and tissue, and sort of clinical data from appropriately consented and authorized organ donors, and also where historically organ donation or around organ donation or transplantation has been evidenced to save thousands of lives each year, and could be considered one of the greatest successes in sort of in line to laboratory medicine and pathology, but also in sort of clinical medicine and medical practices. However, over the past decade, there have been a sort of an increase in requirement for donors throughout the United Kingdom, for example, far surpassing the supply, and this is a pattern that is predicted, unfortunately, to worsen over the next decade, and as many as 1 in 3 patients, or 1 in 3 patients on transplant waiting lists, may die or will die or become too unwell to receive a transplant as a result of the disparity. And so, to address the problem, the transplant community has been turning to organs previously considered to be unsuitable for transplantation. And whilst there have been advances in around, for example, serology, tissue typing, and cross matching, for example, in around pathology and laboratory practices. At the same time, the sort of the criteria has the criteria for those who are looking to donate, for example. Historically, there are those who may not have been considered, who may not be considered to be viable to donate organs, and where owing to particular complexities in around some particular complexities, for example, and wherein historically, where they may be where organs may be unsuitable, whilst at the same time there have been advances, can also now be also potentially considered to donate organs as well, including organs from extended criteria donors, for example, are those who are older or have pre-existing health conditions, and for example, and historically sort of those who were considering to donate organs, donate organs for transplantation, and where they may have pre-existing health conditions, historically would not be viable, would not be a viable approach for clinicians and sort of transplant coordinators to approach for transplantation. However, further research is also required, according to Quad, the Quad Initiative, in order to improve sort of the knowledge of and optimize outcomes from these particular organs. At the same time, Quad provides a unique resource of a resource to support transplant research with the aim of identifying pathways of injury and repair in donor organs, evaluating novel targets of interventions and repair damaged donor organs, validating biomarkers, which is intriguing, since biomarkers are also important in general physiology, in context of physiology, and linking in with where investigators and researchers have always looked to or sought to identify pathways in around transplant rejection, where that might be, for example, a cell-mediated rejection, or forms or other forms of transplant rejection. So validating biomarkers which can be used to better predict the outcomes of transplantation, optimizing donor management and organ preservation, promoting collaboration between research groups to benefit patients, and making previously, again, unusable organs transplantable. And Quad is also a nationwide sort of initiative encompassing a sort of all organ retrieval zones in the United Kingdom, in addition to the Quad Central hub, which is based in Oxford in the United Kingdom, and there are Quad regional centres in other parts of the United Kingdom as well. And what's really intriguing about the Quad initiative is there is a link between Quad with Quad and HTA, the Human Tissue Authority, and NHS Blood and Transplant. But at the same time, there is on the Quad website, there is information made available for relatives, for relatives, for researchers, for and also there are some downloadable sort of newsletters highlighting some important aspects of practices in line to scientific collaborative and research updates on the Quad websites as well, on the Quad website as well. And there is also some information about some sort of some advanced a news page on the Quad website highlighting some of the recent news aspects in around the initiative too. And there is the Quad website also has a page in around where the Quad initiative had hosted a national symposium, which took place in a part of the United Kingdom, and there is information as to for anyone who's for any listeners or viewers who want to check out the website for information. There is a contact page, and for sort of investigators and researchers, the initiative is generally a sort of a research biobank in around transplantation, in around aspects of transplantation, in around transplantation. So viewers and listeners checking out this particular audio podcast are more than welcome to check out the Equality in Organ Donation website by putting in Quad in your search engines, where you can find out more information. So I thought as part of Biomedical Science Day, as part of the Biomedical Science Day 2023, just to highlight a little bit around the Quad Initiative, a Quad Initiative as part of this synopsis. And so the next a sort of overview as part of this synopsis I want to highlight is in around the Organization for Sickle Cell Anemia Research, sickle cell anemia research, and in context of where the Organization for Sickle Cell Research, sickle cell anemia research, is an organization based in the southwest, in the United Kingdom, and is a voluntary organization, and an organization whose primary sort of focus is to improve the quality of health and well-being for individuals and families living with sickle cell and thalassemia. There are on the organization for sickle cell anemia research. There is a sort of a website where there's information about the different services, different services, how people can get involved, in around sort of sickle cell anemia and thalassemia sort of research, and sort of works, and there are lived experiences on the organization's website as well. On the website, the organization was actually founded in the early 1980s by one of the cities, one of the city's sort of pioneers, and at the same time, the aim was to raise an awareness of and specifically in around sickle cell and thalassemia in around the southwest. The organization again is a sort of a voluntary organization, again whose primary role is to improve the quality of health and well-being of individuals and families living with sickle cell and thalassemia. As the only sickle cell and thalassemia center in the southwest, or the southwest region, the organization for sickle cell anemia research is plays an important and pivotal role in providing effective services for those affected by these genetic hematological disorders. And some of the services that the organization have include sort of patient support, mentoring and befriending, advice, guidance, and information in around another service, is around sort of workshops and health promotion sort of events, sort of volunteering, training and education, and sort of activities for children and young people, and also for young adults. The main mission statement of the organization for sickle cell anemia research is to help improve the quality of health and well-being for individuals and families living with sickle cell and thalassemia. And there are at the same time, on the website, anyone who wants to find out who wants to find out more information, you can put in the information in on a search engine, and the services page, where there's been a mention in around some of the services on the actual services page of the website. There's more there's additional information, in around specific particular services. There is also a sort of a gallery, on the website, and also a contact us or contact page. And the organization is hosting an awareness day, or an awareness sort of workshop that's taking place on this toward the latter part of June 2023. And being part of being that is sort of biomedical science day. I thought this being that it's a part of being that sickle cell and thalassemia, like many other sort of hematological diseases that fall under the remit of sort of blood disorders, and sort of in around hematology, and being part of being the remit around Biomedical Science Day 2023, sharing this information in around the organization for sickle cell anemia research. Would for me I thought would be of importance. The organization hold various events with the aim of raising more awareness around sickle cell and thalassemia, sort of more extensively. And so that sort of concludes or surmises really this sort of Labostix practice edition, synopses in around the sort of overview, around the sort of overviews, but also in around the different the varying sort of the varying audio podcasts that are part of this series, will take place, or are part of this series, and wherein there will be wherein this audio podcast was a synopsis, and wherein the series will delve into a little bit more detail around each of these different sort of remits and sort of initiatives in around and aligned to Biomedical Science Day 2023. As part of this audio podcast series as well, there is an intermission or an interlude, if you like, which we'll look at and have there will be an overview on looking at on sort of project management, and looking at traditional techniques versus novel models of working. And so that will form a sort of an intermission or an interlude as part of this Labostix practice, this Labostix practice edition, this audio podcast series in around the lab tide G-force, and as part of this audio podcast, as part of the Labostix G-force, and this audio podcast as part of this a part of another series, another radio edition, aligned as part of and aligned to Storm Labostix production. So thank you for tuning in on this Synopsis, and the series once again will delve into each of these different remits and initiatives in a bit more detail, and again there will be sort of an availability of these of the different audio podcasts and audio podcasts in this series on Storm Labostix, social media pages respectively. Thank you for tuning in.